like if we were sitting down and having a cup of coffee and chatting, like this is not like super professional, like, I highly recommend Elizabeth because blah, 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 blah. You know,
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
here's my sales presentation. But it's like if we were sitting down to coffee and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about this relationship coach, Elizabeth Cunningham. I saw that like you were one of her clients. Can I ask you like just your opinion up in your experience about like her and working with her, right? And so it's just like that's the conversation we're having. Okay, cool.
I think
Awesome.
I can handle it.
I I know that you can handle it. I just wanted to create that because sometimes I've done these like testimonial interviews and it can sound very like I'm giving you the correct answer.
That was my like robot dance. Yeah, don't worry.
I got it. Totally. So I'm just gonna ask you questions and then you're gonna give me answers and then we're gonna be bada bada boom.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna pull up my questions because I have them written down.
Great.
Okay. What did you originally come to coaching for?
Ooh, what a question. Digging back into my years ago intentions. Well, when we met, it was a chaotic time of relationship transition, part one of many that I did not know would be many steps at that point. And I was really in a moment of trying to reclaim a sense of myself in the midst of being in a very challenging relationship that had kind of like had a lot of like peaks and valleys and was actually in a moment of like recommitment. And I really wanted to strengthen my relationship skills in trying to show up better, differently, more wholly in the dynamic that I was in at that time. Um, and so if I'm recalling, right, it was a lot about um, what do I actually want? What are the things I actually am thinking about in my relationships that I'm in? Um, and knowing, should I say your name or should knowing you was
Yeah,
um
yeah.
outside of your work as a coach, we had already established like a rapport, and I knew that we were on a same wavelength as friends. And so I just knew I would have a good conversation with you and knew there was trust. And so that's where we started.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful. Thank you.
of course.
What was and I know, we have worked together quite a few times over the years and continue to work together, which is awesome. But what were some of the challenges that you have faced that you wanted my help with?
Totally. Um, a big pattern that I've had in relationships, especially in the past, though of course still always working through. We we circle around again and again, the same things, the same lessons. But I think the big one, if I was gonna put a container around it, would be not losing myself in my relationships. And I'm giving that sort of like big container because I think that holds a lot of the smaller things that the smaller challenges that I do also face more specifically, um, of codependence and putting myself second and prioritizing somebody else's challenges over my own actual emotional experience. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
uh, Thank you.
yeah.
Had you tried any other like coaching or therapy or anything else to like help you out besides coming to me for coaching?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if I was in therapy when we started. I don't recall actually what the like overlapping timelines were, but yeah, I've done I was actually thinking about this earlier today. I did therapy for 7 mostly consecutive years, prior to and overlapping starting working with you, traditional like one-on-one psychotherapy, talk therapy, which I got a lot out of for sure and was absolutely crucial to me getting through grad school and me learning about my patterns and thinking more deeply about my childhood and all these other things. Um, but I also had some like light touch points with coaching or like other modalities over that time as well, and was coming to understand that traditional therapy was maybe not my favorite way to work through stuff. It's a little slow paced and it's a little bit off, but I'll say this anyway, that I've, especially in years since, in the last whatever 5 years since starting working with you, realizing like, okay, a lot of people actually need somebody to like help them understand what they're feeling. And that's like so important. If you're a person who isn't able to like identify your feelings or make those connections or like see the patterns, great. Yeah, to have someone that you just like tell what's going on to and they're like, "Oh, what about this?" Amazing. But I don't need that. I actually am pretty good at identifying my feelings. What I do with them after, a whole other story. And I guess that's where the coaching comes in, and why I feel like that works better for me. But I'm already a pattern seeker. I already can like connect those dots. And so, after years of doing traditional therapy, realizing, oh wait, maybe this is not like getting me to goal setting or goal reaching. This is a lot of just like unpacking. And as I know, and as others who've done therapy know, you can get into a pattern with your therapist where you're just sort of like info dumping or like just like chatting or just like gossiping almost like, oh, these are all the things that happened this week. Um, so what about them? And I don't need that. For me, that's sort of like going in more in my mind rather than like being able to take that out and like think more expansively about what I'm experiencing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was sort of I without even knowing, not without having worked with you before, I knew that that was at least what I was hoping would come out of coaching. And since starting to work with you, I've also worked with other types of coaches on other adjacent things, shadow work coach and some other stuff. And so, um, yeah, can solidly say that I love I love coaching as a modality. I love the intensity and focusedness of it that doesn't feel so spirally.
Yeah, I get that. That's also like one of the reasons why I love coaching as well, I think. And, referencing like what is it? The body keeps a score. And one of the things that he talks about is that each person has at least four different things, three or four different things that they really need on their journey of healing or self-discovery. And yeah, and I think both of you and I are in the boat of like one of those things for us is coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll add, I was actually thinking about this just before our call. Um, Thinking about a partner of mine actually who's going through a tough time. And um, I realized I don't know when the last time they were in any kind of like therapy.
Mm.
And thinking about, uh, sometimes people who are a little skeptical of therapy, broadly speaking, including coaching, I guess, in the way I'm framing that right now, just therapeutic approaches, interpersonal therapy. Realizing that I don't know if slash when the last time they had that relationship was. And a lot of people will be like, oh, like, I don't know, therapy's not for me or blah, blah, blah. And having this reflection in the shower actually of, um, it's not about one thing being the best thing for anybody, but about being open to trying different things. And I had this sort of like, oh, like, okay, like I haven't been in traditional therapy for a long time, but I've got one plus coaches that I work with consistently, and spiritual community and embodiment community and breathwork community and dance community and like all these other wellness practices that are my own individual yoga practice and all these different things that are the collective effort of finding a way to make sense of your experience, whether that's through talking or through listening or through movement. And I know you're a proponent of all of those things, and that, right? It's an integrative, it's a holistic approach. And I think for me, that's a big standout of traditional therapy, where even if your therapist is like giving you instructions or like giving you homework or whatever, it's usually pretty in the head. And I had cool, good therapists over the years that weren't just all like, shrinky dink kind of vibes, but it's really different to be working with somebody who isn't just thinking about the literature or just thinking about sort of more traditional modes.
Yeah, I
know
bet.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
What specific changes or breakthroughs have you experienced since working with me? And I know that that's a big question because we've been working together for a while, but like what are some of the things that come to mind?
Well, gosh, I mean, I did somewhat already mention this, but bringing it back in, the piece, how am I trying to frame this? Connecting the thought patterns to like a movement or a certain kind of like breathing or somatic, right? Like making the emotional processing somatic. That was really big for me. It wasn't a new idea for me, but especially in our first round when, I was really like sticking to the course materials and really like, in it in that way. And a lot of it was new and things I hadn't explored before, experienced before. Um, that was really helpful to get me out of just my head. Even if I didn't always like feel like I was like fully getting it or like fully right. Like, especially when you're starting, you're like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? I don't know. What is this supposed to feel like? What is this? But now with some distance from that early time, being like, oh, right. It's not about doing it right, obviously. It's about teaching your system new ways of understanding itself. And so all of that said, yeah, I have a much richer mind body connection for sure. I and especially as you well know, over the last couple of years, which has included a bunch of other things that I've been doing and changes that have happened in my life, um, feeling a lot more open, just my ability to communicate, my ability to set my boundaries for myself internally or verbalize externally, um, and my capacity to, this is especially through the group coaching, which is sort of adjacent to the one-on-one conversation, but um, through listening and through practicing hearing other people's stories and not filtering that through my own judgment or my own self-concept as much as I maybe would have in the past, which is something that's a soft goal that I had set for myself. I don't think I was like really doing like a lot. Well, I take that back because I took like an active listening online course last year. It was a goal. It was a specific goal that I had of really wanting to get better at hearing what people were actually saying and being present for other people, which, surprise, surprise, helps you do that for yourself as well. So yeah, just being able to express what's going on for me, releasing a lot of like fear of, again, not doing it right or not saying the right thing, or being judged, realizing, oh, right, I'm judging myself. Nobody else is actually judging me. People are want your vulnerability. That's like attractive and valuable, at least to other people who are also on that trajectory. Which as I'm saying that, and I think that's another really big learning is learning, developing that discernment of, oh, this person is in their fragility and cannot hold what I'm offering. My realness, my rawness, my truth, my vulnerability. is overwhelming to this person. And it's not my responsibility to like shrink that away, which is what I would have maybe done in the past, but it is my responsibility to see that and go, oh, what do I think is going to happen here with this person who cannot receive what I'm trying to offer? Um, and you and Lee do a really amazing job of creating containers that where the people are all here to like be in that vulnerability and hold that space. And that's been really healing.
Mm.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm really glad that you got all of that. I also love that you talked about the discernment piece because that was something that we talked about like for a while, and that was like a really big process and a really big deal, and like I've just seen you grow so much inside of that, and that's just been so beautiful.
I'm like all tearing up. Doing this work, as I know you well know, both from your own side of it and from witnessing others go through these processes, it can be really lonely to take this on, even in community, where you're really just like coming face to face with, oh, I've been asking for these things from people who cannot offer them. And taking that responsibility for my own experience of those dynamics, and whether that calls for dramatic reconsideration or de-escalation or complete removal from a situation, or even just, again, the loneliness of being around a bunch of people where you just know that you're not thinking about things the same way. Can be very isolating,
Mhm.
but also it's part of the work. That's definitely part of my work, as do a little like childhood trauma reflection right now of, as an only child grew up in a single parent household, with a mom who was super fun and cool in a lot of ways, but also like very emotionally mature and very distant in other ways. I've spent a lot of time literally alone. I'm actually very comfortable being by myself,
Mhm.
but being by myself in distraction, being by myself in collapse, being by myself in dissociation or numbing through media consumption or weed or whatever, what have you. And it's different than practicing like actually just like being in yourself, being with yourself,
Mhm.
and recognizing that you still can and have to often do that work when there are literally other people around. It is not just about whether or not you're actually alone or have people around you. Those patterns are always there.
Mhm.
A lot of work around that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. Well, and I think, yeah, to your point, like part of this work is, um, you talked about discernment, but it's also about like the alignment of people, and like, and that's like part of the loneliness as well, is that sometimes you do this work and you realize that like you're not aligned with the people that you thought that you were aligned with, and then it leaves you in this space of like, well, who am I aligned with? And maybe we'll talk about that in a second, because like you've definitely found a lot of people who you are aligned with, which is really beautiful. Um, uh, but any other like um any tools or frameworks or strategies that I introduced you that you found particularly valuable?
I'm not good at the like names of things recall, but I'll do my best with this question.
Yeah, yeah. You can also
Um,
just describe it too. It's
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sort of
Yeah.
putting that out there that I'm like, I know I like there's a couple different ones that I like mix up what the names are, but um for one, definitely the sort of like Socratic questioning modalities. There's a couple different frameworks you use around that, but where it's like, okay, I'm going to say this, and you're just going to say the first thing that comes to your mind. That has been so helpful as an overthinker. As somebody who's like, let me make sure I get the words exactly right before I say anything. No, no, just let it come out. You can sort through it later. That's the whole point. So definitely those tools for sure. And I haven't always felt rooted, like focused, rooted in to the sort of like diet exercises or again, I feel like I'm mixing up which ones, but where it's like, think about this, think about the opposite of this. Now think about this again, think about the opposite of this again. And that integration piece of like, are we really talking about two different things? Are we talking about one thing? And
Right.
when, especially at my most anxious or most preoccupied about something, that reminder of, oh, right, like two halves of one whole, like it's still just one thing. You're there, it's all spectral. So spectrum, everything's a spectrum. Yeah, especially that kind of framing of things has been really, really helpful. And this isn't even a specific modality, but doing those things, not just one-on-one, but in the groups has been really amazing, I'll say. Like getting to hear how other people answer those same kinds of questions, being reminded that there's other ways to think about things, even within the same tool framework, is so potent. Again, as somebody who's like, that's the right answer. Which is funny because I'm not, I mean, I don't think I wouldn't say this. I don't think you would say this. Most people who know me wouldn't say that I'm like a narrow-minded person who only thinks things are one way. I know everybody thinks about things differently. Um, but it's still like we only live in our own mind and we can only come at things from our own frameworks and experiences. And yeah, I love hearing other people's ways of thinking about things. It gives me permission to think of to not have to do that the way that I've always done that. And I think that to sort of bring it back to the one-on-one experience of those tools and modalities is um it softens the expectation that I might be putting on myself to like get it right and opens me up to be able to offer more. And like a specific example I'll give is like I tend to think about things very verbally, like with words or concepts or like specific sort of ideas. Um, and being like, oh, like, and again, this is something that you coached me through too. This isn't just through the group dynamic, but like, oh, I can just like say how my body is feeling right now. Oh, I can like describe it with a color or a sound or like this. It doesn't have to be a word. And that's definitely something that has developed through our time together.
I love that. I'm so happy about that. Yeah, it is. It's so freeing when you don't have to like figure out like how to explain something, that you can just be like, yeah, my body just like you said this and now my body feels like this. Or like this, you asked me this question and now what's coming up for me is this emotion or a sensation or memory or yeah, yeah, just like beautiful. I'm just so happy that you got that. That's so great.
Yeah. Just adding to that. Yeah, I don't even know what I was about to say actually, but the part where, oh, I know what I was gonna say. Yeah, being very disconnected from my mind, from my body throughout my life. And as somebody whose body decide whose body is keeping the score, whose body was like, oh, you don't want to do a bunch of like repressed emotions and lifetime of putting your own needs aside. Haha, here's some pain to like bring you back into your body. Um, But then, like, still something that is very important to me and is a personal choice, and everybody navigates this differently who has chronic illness or chronic pain. Um, really not wanting to like self-identify through that. Um, not even ironically, that's not the right word, but there's sort of a like paradox or like nuance or beauty to not having to self-identify while still being able to acknowledge and like respect and appreciate those messages that are coming through in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's really powerful to start to unpack like where those things are coming from.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like you don't have to be like, oh, well, I have this illness or I have this disease. It's like, yes, I do have that. And also like this is just what I'm experiencing right now. Like this is what's going on with me. This is what I need around this. Right. Yeah. Like not having to be attached to the label, but really being able to like be in the experience and get what you need.
Right. I can hold it. I
Mm.
don't I the best choice is not to completely distance and disconnect myself from that. It's to let it exist alongside all of the other things that I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
Mm. How has your life or relationships or just yourself improved since our work together?
Well, it's a lot of two steps forward, one step back, as is in any learning, I guess. But it's kind of wild. It's wild to think about how quickly is maybe gives the wrong impression, but there's a there's a pace, like there's an exponential pace of being in the same dynamic, the same dynamic, the same dynamic. And then once you're able to like get out the door a little bit from that dynamic, then like it just like takes off in a way. And I've seen that for myself and I've seen that for other people where, and you sort of alluded to this a couple moments ago, that yeah, like I have a lot of people in my life that are aligned. And I spent a long time in relationship, romantic, sexual, familial, platonic, etc., the full spectrum, with people who are almost aligned or where I know why I thought those connections made sense. But now being out of that, it's like, oh, I would never do that again. Oh, that would never happen. Like I would never be in that dynamic again. And that that is through this. That is through the re-empowerment of like recentering your own needs, having those conversations with yourself, with your body, with your actual somatic experience of relationships. Um, as one concrete example, um, uh, being able to recognize like when I feel unsettled with someone, even if there's not conflict, even if there's not like, right, like dysfunction, outright dysfunction, or like other sorts of like obvious negative connection. Um, but being able to be like, oh, like I really care about this person, but I don't feel fully settled. I don't feel fully comfortable when I'm around them. That doesn't mean you have to like walk away from them and say bye, I'm never going to talk to you again in your life, but no, being able to notice those things is definitely a huge part of where I feel like I'm at now in comparison to even just a couple of years ago in terms of the connections in my life. Yeah.
I feel that I love hearing you describe that because it is such a similar feeling to how I feel doing this work too. And so I also feel really seen in that too. I'm just like so like proud of you always sounds so like patronizing, but like but, like, I'm just so happy for you. Like I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. I see you.
I'm happy for me too. I mean, yeah, I'm like I've always been a sort of like metaphorical thinker or a metaphor and analogy and those kinds of like rhetorical devices have always helped me understand what I'm experiencing or feeling. And for a long time, for many years, many more years before we even met, I have had this analogy of like a puzzle. Well, like if anybody who does jigsaw puzzles, hey out there, jigsaw puzzle doers, it when you're working on a tough puzzle and there's one piece that like you put it in and it like totally seems like it fits. You're like, this is the piece. This fits. And then somehow you're like almost at the end of the puzzle and like things are not working. And you're like, what? I don't understand. Like, and you realize that piece has like a fraction of a shave different shape than the actual thing.
Right.
And I spent a lot of my teen to young adult to middle adult relational life um with like those really close puzzle piece people where like it almost fit, except that it didn't. And that ripple effect, or like I've seen it's like the analogy or the visual metaphor of like if you put like one wrong brick in a wall, like it doesn't seem like a big deal, but like as you keep building the wall up, it becomes more and more and more distorted. Or if you like put a little thing inside your book, like it doesn't say it's in the middle, but like it's gonna distort all the pages and
Right.
like that, where it it feels like it should be right, but then you start to realize, oh wait, all these other pieces are now not fitting because this one piece that looks really close is not actually the right piece for that spot.
What a great analogy.
Oh, it's the hilarity to me is that I've had that analogy in my mind and it's been something I've been circling around since I was like 20. But that did not stop me from having a lot of like almost there puzzle piece relationships. Like
Yeah.
but
But yeah.
and but now that's the discernment piece now, right?
Mhm.
Is of like, okay, I can recognize why, like even with my most recent long-term dysfunctional relationship that I just left not too long ago. Um, I can look at it and I can say, I see why I thought this would fit, but I also can see that it wasn't fitting and why. And that those that ability, that skill of being able to like look at it from a little bit of a distance, even when you're kind of in it, and be like, okay, I see what's happening. It's not the right piece. I got to take the piece out. I got to see what other pieces will fit. And spending successively less time jamming that piece in, being like, it fits.
Yeah, yeah. You learn and you grow and yeah, beautiful. And it also reminds me of just like the difference between like knowing something and then like experiencing that thing, right? Or being able to have that like yeah, embodiment and discernment. Yeah, for sure. Um that seems like a really tricky question. I'm gonna ask it, but you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, just because I just said that out loud now. If you could summarize your coaching experience with me in one sentence, what would it be?
Okay, I think I have it. If I were summarizing my coaching experience with you, Elizabeth, in one sentence, I would say it's an intimate and trust-based exploration of who I am and how I want to be and show up in relationship with myself and others. Big
Hmm.
love.
Big love. Who would you recommend my coaching to and why?
Just like therapy isn't for everyone, coaching is also not for everyone. And I think sort of similar to what I was saying earlier about why therapy was good for me, but also isn't maybe my favorite modality is sort of how I'll frame this answer as well. Um, Working with you in this container, whether it's one-on-one or part of the group, is for someone who is at least ready to be ready to look at their relational self, both with compassion and also with a critical eye. Like you have somebody who's ready to do the hard work of rethinking how they have been showing up and how others in their lives have been showing up. And that is a really vulnerable process. And as I said earlier, it can be very isolating, can be very painful to uncover those patterns, to uncover the actual felt experience of you and with others. And so, yeah, this dynamic, this relationship is for people who are ready to do that, who want to do that, who everybody has challenges in relationships. I think that's another huge thing that I've really learned through working with you is just through your reflection back or sharing about what, somebody else that you're working with is going through or something like that. Um, Realizing, oh, right, like this isn't just about who you date or who you have sex with. And I mean, I would already mention relationship with self, but it's about all kinds of relationships. And hearing others in group show up with, oh, this relationship or oh, this dynamic I'm in, and being reminded, okay, right, like we all have work to do around, um, even if all of our things seem like really great, even just to be able to recognize how we're showing up. It's for somebody who wants to do that, somebody who wants to take a look inside, open up the box and be like, okay, what's in the box? How do I feel about what's in the box? Is there anything missing from the box? Is there anything extra in the box? Is there something that's way too big for this box? Is there something that's way too small for this box? Is the box too small?
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's for folks who want to do that. And I love that even framing it that way, that still can bring in so many different types of people is really cool.
Mhm. I love
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What fears or hesitations did you have about coaching before starting, and how were they resolved?
Mm. Well, after being in therapy for a long time and feeling good about that experience, those experiences, and feeling like it was beneficial, but also not feeling like it was, I don't want to say not helping, but not getting me to where I wanted to get to for myself and my relationships and my understanding of myself. I think one of my biggest fears, at least at the very beginning, was like, this isn't going to work. It's just going to be the same. I'm not gonna get anything out of this. It's just my own problems. Like I'm just always gonna have these problems. And those are the anxieties of someone who hasn't found something that works for them yet. And I sort of started saying this earlier, but the rapid pace at which you go from like, oh, I don't really like I can't see anything, I don't know what's going on, I like can't tell what's going on, to oh, I am my eyes are open now. I can see what's going on. That that is how that progressed, where you're like, okay, let me give this a chance. Let me try these things out. If they don't work for me, that's also okay. And I think that's something that you do offer. You do a really good job of reminding everybody, reminding me, reminding others that you work with that it's okay if one of these things doesn't resonate. Like it's not about thinking every single tool that you offer is like the most amazing, life-changing thing you've ever encountered. But the willingness to go outside of your comfort zone and think about those things in that way, even just for that few minutes of working through that, is really powerful. And so yeah, not being sure it's gonna work for sure. And again, like I guess even like what does that even mean? Work how? What do you even mean when you say that, Gage? I don't know, right? Like, so that's one. And then I think also there can be there's a little bit of a fear occasionally of like, can I do this by myself? Like, it's one thing to have you here working through these things with me, but being like, is this just another like codependency, right? Am I just now like gonna be relying on having our time or having the one-on-one or having somebody walk me through these processes? And yeah, no, that's not actually true at all. There, it gets in. It gets in.
Mhm.
Even when I feel totally on another wavelength or not focused or distracted or whatever, it gets in. And then if you allow it in even a little bit, it continues to percolate and stew and develop inside. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the great things that I really love about coaching or specifically the way that I've been trained and like how I coach, right? Is that it really does I like the word percolate because sometimes that's what it does, right? It's like it like percolates and stews and then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, okay, got it, got it. Yeah, I love that. I love that word. Okay, last question. Ooh, I like this question. What's one thing you want people to know about working with me that they might not expect?
Did not take me any. I mean, I don't. So I'm gonna say as a sort of not qualifier, but like a framing for what I'm about, what initially bubbled up and made me laugh is that I know that you find clients in so many different ways. So there may be people who want to start working with you who do totally know this because they know you because of the context from which they know you and have encountered you or found you as a practitioner. But the first thing that came to mind is how absolutely silly you are. Because you're like so with your hair and you're so beautiful and so like you have what I could imagine would potentially be like an intimidating presence to some people. Like you're like a hot girl. Right? And I say that with only respect. And but you're such a cuddly, silly, giggly. When again, the best laugh, the most boisterous laugh. It it makes you a real person. And yeah, I think that again, if somebody just like found your website or like found you randomly or just like I don't know, you were somewhere and you like were I don't know how you find clients, but right, I can imagine somebody not necessarily expecting that or expecting you to be very serious. Um, in your approach and you can be obviously when the time calls for it, but yeah, your effervescence I think is something that people might not expect.
Thank you. Yes, that is
Well,
true.
I'm gonna add one more thing, which is how gay you are. I mean, and that's like as someone who's, like visibly queer, like performs queerness outwardly in more legible ways, perhaps. I have so much understand well from my own past of presenting more femme as well. Like I get how there's a lot of assumptions people make about your queer identity based on how you present yourself, and you're hella gay. And like, I just hope that anybody who's like, get that out of your head, y'all. Like, no. I just, yeah,
It's like, is Elizabeth queer enough to coach me? Yes, yes, I am. Yeah.
absolutely, 100%, no question about it. Yeah. And of course, with there's no such thing as gay, like, there's no queer barometer, right? Of course. And I'm not saying that, and you're not saying that either. But
Yeah.
but those stereotypes and those assumptions are real, and
Mhm.
it is important when you're picking somebody that you're going to like work with and share some of the most intimate and challenging and dark parts of yourself and your experience, to know that that person does actually understand where you're coming from their own frame, from their own experiences, is makes it's really important. And so with no with no misunderstanding of where people are coming from with that, um, I'm glad. I'm glad that that didn't, I mean, again, I knew you from outside of it, but like, I'm glad that that didn't stop me. And I'm glad for all the people um, who see you, who see who you are and know that, and I'll add, like, you wouldn't have to be hella gay to do a really good job at this. And it's, you aren't just offering tools based on some learning you did. You are offering tools based on learning and self-experience. And I think that's magical.
I really appreciate you saying that. I really appreciate working with you.
Me
And
too.
I really, really, really appreciate you doing this interview with me. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or any question that I didn't ask, or anything that you wanted to say?
Mm. I guess I'll just say, because this is what came to my mind, is I had a moment where I was like, wait a minute, when did I think we met in 2021, actually. Because yeah, I it was during my first separation with my spouse, and I met you through, yeah, Elo and Santaya's breathwork community. My friend Valerie, who you know, had brought me to a breathwork after going to the first Somatic summer. And I don't remember if she had met you there or not, but we met in that container. And so just so it's not even 5 years. It's not even 4 years. And right,
Right.
your face tells me, right, you said it with your face, what I'm about to say with my words, which is that it's really amazing to think about how much my life has changed over those not even 4 years, how much our relationship has developed over those 4 years. And also, in a way, even more amazing, how much trust I was ready to put in you without even really knowing you 3 to 4 years ago. That's amazing to think about. And um I that is not something I got in traditional therapy. I was with my first therapist for 5 years, and our distance grew over that time. I didn't gain trust with that person. Not in, I mean, again, totally different container, but still, it that's a really interesting thing to reflect on right now. Um, like, I want to always know you, whether we're working together or just as friends or the intersection of the two. That's something that I think is possible in coaching that is actively discouraged in traditional therapeutic modalities, where there is supposed to be this distance. You're not supposed to be friends. You're not supposed to talk off time. And like, I mean, I have my own like still like hyper independent thing where I'm like, oh no, I don't talk to people. I'm not somebody who really is like, oh, I gotta like reach out about this right now and get feedback. It's not typically how I operate, but I know I could. I know I could text you anytime and be like, oh my God, I just need to like vent about this, and send you a voice message, and know that you're going to listen to that and you're going to show up for that with your own boundaries of time and availability. But you're going to show up for me with that, with the love of a friend, of a community member. of someone who is like walking the path with me, with us, with all of us that work with you. And like, yeah, here's to 14, 40 more years of knowing each other and being in community. I hope. Like, let's be like old queers together, reminiscing about our like 20s to 30s. Like, fuck yeah.
I want to be old queers with you, Gage.
Yeah,
I want to be old queers with
like
you.
that's
That
such a
sounds
beautiful
amazing.
thing. Yeah, it's so I love thinking about that. And that
Oh,
that's special. That's a
yeah.
special thing. You're a special person, and anybody who gets to work with you and learn from and with you is also special. And yeah, I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
So
really
much
grateful
for
for you
you, so much
too.
appreciation.
Thanks.
Yeah. I get to watch you grow too. That's cool.
That's fucking cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things that I really am intentional about in my coaching, and being in, one-on-one coaching and being in our group sessions as well, is like, yeah, just being a person,
Yeah, you're the coach, but it's not a hierarchy.
Right.
You have things to offer because you've made it your purpose to learn and know those things to share, but
Mm-hmm.
you're still showing up as yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks for putting that into words. That really like solidified something for me. That's just been like an intention before, but it's just like that really solidified something for me. So thank you. Yeah.
So much.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for saying yes. I really, really appreciate you.